Welcome. Today's guest is Anne Scotland, emotional wellness specialist, teaching professionals how to rediscover joy in their lives and work, and author of book titled Live for Joy. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Evelina.
Amazing. I'm really, really curious about this conversation, where it's going to take this, because you are a specialist in rediscovering joy, and I really love this topic. I love this so much because I can see in my clients as well that we kind of forget how to embrace joy. Once we get into adulthood, it was like we got all this memo that I don't remember getting, that we're not allowed to have joy anymore.
Right.
So, from your experience, what is the number one reason that we, I don't know, forget how to celebrate joy, and what are the consequences?
Yeah, I think it is kind of that unavoidable programming in childhood.
Mm,
Take life seriously, focus on your homework, stop jumping on the couch, you're going to break it. A lot of the messages that our parents didn't mean at all in a bad way, of course, but sort of that being completely spontaneous in our spontaneous self, you know,
mhm.
screaming and yelling when we're having fun, but it needs to be quiet for the grown-ups. Kind of gives you that idea that being in your authentic self isn't okay. Um, even the other extreme too. Sometimes if there's too much crying, parents are like, okay, come on, stop it, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Let's get on with it. So sort of this shortening or narrowing of what emotions are allowed, and then also this idea that we have to take life so seriously. You have to take school seriously, you have to take work seriously, you have to, um, meaning if you're not like working against challenge, and focusing, you're not a good person, or you're not accomplishing what's
Yeah.
expected. And I think that's where it first begins.
And that is powerful because I see this with my clients all the time as a hypnotherapist. I work a lot with subconscious mind, and the conditioning that we receive in an early years absolutely plays such a huge role in our lives as we go through life. And we don't even know, for the most part, we don't understand to what extent what we heard in those early years still plays out in our lives, whether we want to admit to ourselves or not.
hmm You hear it sometimes in your subconscious if you're tuned into that at all. You're you're doing something, you're wasting time sitting at your desk, but you're
Mm,
playing online, or you're doing something else, right? You're shopping. You're doing something and you're supposed to be working, and you hear this voice. It's almost this like, it's like, get back to work, get back to work,
yeah.
and get back to work. And you're like, oh, oh yeah. And not that we can't focus and create order and structure in our lives, but that structure also is sort of, it's constantly a correcting,
Mm.
um, as opposed to just being in the moment, right? And I think that in real life, because I very much like to talk about real life when it comes to emotional wellness, I mean, not everything can be perfectly ideal. How can we find a balance, to focus on our joy, and find ways to integrate that into our life again?
And would you say that is actually playing a huge role in entrepreneurial life, because we think that we have to be busy 24/7 because otherwise we won't be successful, or we think like we're wasting time. We're actually taking a step back and celebrating those achievements and taking a moment to just be in a moment actually would benefit us so much more than that constant doing.
Absolutely. The constant work, and even a constant distraction, whether that's work or, sometimes even more of mental wellness, say depression, both.
Mm.
And a lot of entrepreneurs deal with a lot of depression because there's a lot of ups and downs. I remember when I went through a particularly tough time in my life. It was actually a divorce. And it's a very, very tough time of upheaval in my life. And I was very depressed and very just kind of in my own world. I wasn't really interacting with others. And as I started to heal, I remember walking out on my front porch one day, and I lived, there was like trees and some nature around me there. And all of a sudden, I heard the birds singing. And it occurred to me that I hadn't heard birds singing in like 6 months because the birds were there, but I wasn't tuned in. I was
Mm,
completely focused on myself or my, basically my depression or my, or our work or whatever, where we're so not in the moment we forget to notice the things that bring us joy, whatever those are for you. I know we were talking before the show how much you love, sunny, warm weather,
yeah.
and but someone can get stuck indoors in the air conditioning all summer, just focused and not really, taking that 10 minutes to just go sit outside in front of your office and just sit back in a chair and
Mm,
let the sun wash over your body and bring you that healing and joy and just being in the moment, especially with nature, which is especially healing, I think.
absolutely. And I think that goes to into something I learned from one of my mentors, attention. Where we keep our attention is where the energy flows, where our focus flows. And this is exactly what we're going to get. Sounds simple. It took me a while to really get it because I was like, yeah, yeah, I understand, but I really didn't. Where is our attention? This is exactly what a life, universe, God, call it as you want, will deliver.
Yes. Yes, and there is that aspect of our participation.
Mm,
I think a lot of people want a magic fix.
hmm.
Can you snap your fingers and I can have a more joyful life, or I can have,
Yeah,
£1 million or $1 million or €1 million, right? Whatever it is. But we do have to kind of actively participate, and as you know, because you do so much work with the subconscious, um, our thoughts are so important. Um,
absolutely.
it really comes in the order, the way I see it, it's beliefs and then thoughts and then emotions. Like they're generated in that order, typically. So getting down to the deep parts of the work, which I know is what you do a lot,
Mm,
which is getting back to beliefs about oneself, um, formative impacts that of childhood and how that, oh, I must be this kind of person or that kind of person, or I was always told this, so I must be this. Or we don't
mm,
even think about it anymore. We just live that way. Oh, I don't deserve to be happy, or I don't deserve to have abundance and make the money that I want or need, or I'm not good enough, or whatever those messages are. Those are our beliefs, and from that flows our thoughts all day long, and our behavior,
absolutely.
and then from there, our feelings and emotions, and we wonder why we're down or unhappy so often.
Unfortunately, yes, we fuel those stories over and over. We've accepted as ours when, for the most part, we just heard something and we just adopted this. And it's so unfortunate that we not even question the beliefs that we have. We just accept them without a second thought.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're just unfortunate, but I was as guilty as anyone else out there before I
Yes.
started doing the work.
Yes.
And I
So
wish
true.
they teach all of this, like mindfulness, meditation, for the
Mm.
power of word and for the if they taught us at school, oh my God, like the whole world would have been such a better place.
And this is something that I know. I know of several people in the world, and it's not what this is. Our topic is today, but that are working to get that more into school systems. Um, Literally transforming the world. We went through so many different stages in history, and
Mm,
in the industrial revolution, which was all hard sweat, and you went to work every day and you were grateful just to have a job in the factory, even though your boss was screaming at you and you're abused and you didn't make much money because you had food on the table and you had a job, and this was like survival, but it was better than starving, or having a farm when bad weather happened. At least if you're making steel, you could still put food on the table because someone else was making sure you had money. You didn't have to grow your own food. and then moving into more of the technology world and everything else. This idea that we're constantly controlled by our environment instead of being able to relax and just let those positive vibrations in. And I think by bringing that into the classroom, bringing that to children, teaching in school, that you don't have to push so hard.
Mm,
And that's a different message than, oh, you don't have to study if you don't want to, or everybody wins, or
yeah.
it's more of learning to love and appreciate yourself as you are in the moment, and then you do the work that is necessary, but without the judgment. We'd have so much less, and in this country, and we have so much problems with violence in schools and
Mm,
high suicide rates, and even in kids, even in young kids. And I think that teaching them that mindfulness, teaching them to reconnect with whatever that spirit part of themselves is, however you want to define that, having autonomy, because that's what's really taken away when we're so very young, is our autonomy, and we're forced to live in a cookie cutter shape of someone else has made.
absolutely not. And whoever's doing this work, I have all the best vibes sending their way. Um, but going back to Joe, what has made you to decide this is the work that you want to do?
Oh, good question. So, yes. So I was, fortunate enough to have a good, happy childhood when I was very young, and I definitely, have that joy like you see on children's faces and infants, even babies, right? They're playing. But once I got just old enough to recognize my environment, and once I understood like the social aspects of life, things were changing for me. I grew up in an extremist, right wing religious group in the United States. It was Christian, but extraordinarily conservative. So, believing the end of the world was very near. We were born to be either martyrs or missionaries, pretty much, is what we were training for as children. Lived way out in the country. We were growing our own food, wearing long dresses. I was homeschooled till I was almost 16. And by homeschool, not like now where you have other groups of children. I mean, just alone, just me and my two little brothers. Um, and there was a lot of formulas, like all religions in the world, none of which are intrinsically good or bad, but there was a lot of
Mm,
formulas around you have to do all these things and keep all these rules. But ironically, even in such a kind of strict state, the proof that you were doing it right, that you were doing religion right, was that you're supposed to have joy, be very joyful,
mm,
which is just sort of funny. So, sometimes I was, but other times I was not. As a young teenager, I was very depressed a lot, very isolated, lonely, and really struggling to kind of find that joy. Um, and it's a very long journey of me getting out of that environment well into my young adulthood. My first marriage, coming from such a isolated environment, I wasn't very prepared for the real world. And eventually that marriage failed, and uh, because of things I wasn't prepared for and didn't understand, and being with someone who had sociopathic tendencies. And so then I just found myself very alone and just so very unhappy and distrusting the systems and the belief structures that I had been taught, and feeling like they had all failed me. And I really decided, if I'm going to be here in this world, there has to be a way to find joy, to live joy without a formula, without having to believe a certain set of beliefs, just being spontaneously joyful. What is that I see in an infant, in a toddler, in a young child? Just like this intrinsic happiness. And as I studied it and began to learn how to practice it in my own life, I really realized it has never really left us. We've just pushed it down or covered it up or switched it off. It is still who our inner intrinsic spirit is. I think joy is the birthright of every human being. And some people don't get to connect to it as much as others, but it really is our birthright. You know, life is joy and pain, but if you just shut out joy, you're only left with pain. So let's reconnect. So I started a journey of studying emotional wellness and psychology and neuroscience, and really finding what it takes to have happiness, to find happiness. And then as I began to learn and grow and find it in my own life, my mission really became to share that with others. I've always been, a teacher, a coach, and in these kinds of positions, and so it's like, how do I share this with others? And that's how my work was born, which was, let's take a lot of that technical information, science, personal experience, working with the many, many clients I've worked with over the years, and let's bring it to people in a simple, easy to apply formula that is just making small changes every day to bring joy back into your life. It doesn't, you don't have to go sit cross-legged on a hill for 20 years. You don't have to completely change your diet. You don't have to go to a specific religious organization. Just little things about reconnecting to who you already really are, deep inside. So that's where my mission came from.
That's powerful. And that kind of brings me to my childhood, which wasn't very joyful at all. I had to grow up very quickly because my grandma died when I was 8. I had to grow up, and then my brother was born when I was 11, 12. So
Hmm.
that's kind of that was end to my childhood.
Wow.
So joy wasn't part of my life much because, well, I was left with a lot of adult grown up responsibilities at the age when I really wasn't prepared for that in any shape or
Yeah.
form. So joy of rediscovering that joy in my life was quite a journey and still is. And many, many years later. So what would be your best advice for people like me? I never really developed joy as a child or never really had much time for that because I had to grow up so quickly. How do you rediscover joy or allow yourself to feel that joy again?
Yes, no, such a really excellent question. And I get that question a lot. And for me, it starts with very simply just creating awareness. Creating awareness of what brings you joy and what takes it away. Instead of just charging through our day, doing our work, and interacting with the people or family or friends or professionals that we have to interact with, and just get from breakfast to dinner, and then you watch TV and you go back to bed, and we're not giving ourselves any space for self-evaluation.
Mm,
That's not any kind of punishing self-evaluation, because some people, they do that and they just feel guilty about all the things they didn't get done, or when
right.
they got impatient that day with their kid, or this is more just evaluating your joy, what takes it from you and what brings it to you. And actually, I have a free journal for your listeners if they're interested. It's a joy journal, and it's just 7 days, and it's very little writing, and it's beautiful. It's got beautiful color illustrations. And you, in the morning, you set some intentions, you answer a couple of questions about what you're going to watch for today. So it's sort of like you help decide your assignment for the day about creating the awareness around the joy in your life. And then in the evening, you write a couple sentences that kind of, and answers a couple questions that reports back. So it just starts a habit. I've had people who've used it, you can use it digitally online, or you can print it out. More than one week, they redid it,
Mm.
started fresh, because they're like, I'm really starting to see what's changing, and I'll share that URL with you now and at the end if you like. So it's just
Building a habit of
yes,
seeing that joyful moments
yes,
and the intention behind it.
yes. So sometimes things take joy away that we don't even think about.
Mm,
Sometimes some people, I lived in Los Angeles for a long time, and, traffic there to get 3 or 4 miles could take you an hour and a half. I mean, it's just, and by the time you got there, you were so stressed out. And so, you're just like stressed out for the rest of the day. So, but then you think, well, everybody has to do it. It must just be fine.
mhm.
Um, and not that we can always avoid traveling to appointments, but are there ways you could make it simpler? Are there ways you could go sooner and be earlier and not end up stressed? Um, Sometimes just people that we hang out with. We kind of forget that this person maybe a friend or an acquaintance or a business person that we see a lot. is constantly in a negative frame of mind, constantly
Mm.
talking negatively, complaining, gossiping, complaining about how the world is all like terrible and there's nothing positive or hopeful or bright or optimistic. It doesn't mean you can't be that person's friend, but how much time are you spending with that person?
And that's powerful.
Is it really pulling away from you? And these are the things where you start to little notice in your life when you become observant, when you start paying attention. And then, of course, on the reverse side, what are the things that really bring you joy? Um, I love dogs. I love all animals, but I love dogs. So my dogs bring me so much joy. I wake up in the morning and they're literally like, excuse me, I'm crawling all over. I have three mini schnauzers, three
Mm.
rescue mini schnauzers. So they're a lot of joy and energy. They literally almost give me a reason to wake up in the morning because that just for me personally, that brings me a lot of joy. For other people and myself as well, being creative. A lot
Hmm.
of times we get so stuck in our work, from our routines and our family and school and kids and whatever that is, that we forget how much we are creative beings and that we need to exercise that. We need an outlet for that. Whether that's just drawing on a pad while you watch TV, just sketching, making pictures. Maybe you love to draw. Maybe you love to write. Could you get up an extra 30 minutes earlier in the morning and write, whatever kind of writing that is, whether that's journaling or creative writing or whatever.
Mm.
Or building things with our hands. Or for me, I love cooking. To me, it's a science and it's beautiful and it's art. And I like how it looks and how it's presented and how that gives me a lot of pleasure. Some people like working with plants. It might just be two geraniums on the porch, but it's plants, it's a living thing. How often do you get out in nature? And nature doesn't have to be a big long drive or bus ride somewhere. It can really be just the park that's close to you or
Hmm.
sitting in your own back garden or and
Oh,
just
keeping simple, is it? Just
yes, simplifying. Can you put the phone down? Can you leave the phone in the house and go sit down outside for 10 minutes and
that
just
can be a
be?
struggle for a lot of people these days.
I know people very close to me who can't do that. But it's incredible when you do that. A certain kind of, the first couple times it feels awkward because you feel like you're missing something. But then after that,
Yeah.
whew, you feel
They're
like there's
very
like
addictive.
pressure relieved. This pressure is relieved. And you're just like, it is that suddenly you notice there were birds singing or the sun was shining. Or I
Mm.
even love the rain. If it's like a light rain, I love walking in the
Yeah.
rain. It's just connecting, right? And just
Paying
being.
attention, because if you scrolling your phone, you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. You're not hearing the wind whistling or the rain or the birds, anything.
No. And we've kind of forgotten that we're not our phones.
Mm.
Never said that before. We think our entire life revolves around electronics, and that's actually how we are defined ourselves in many ways. People
Mm.
now, social media, their website is online. Everything is who I really am is living in this virtual
Yeah.
space when really you're still a tangible flesh and blood mammal, human piece of nature. Not like we go out and look at nature. We are nature. Every time we take a breath, that's nature. Every time we
Mm.
walk on our feet, that's nature. Nature is who we are, not living in some, imaginary electronic space. So just getting back connected to ourselves. And when I work with people in my retreats and other environments and just taking some of these simple steps, it's amazing. People get so emotional. They're like, I haven't even like really breathed for a
Mm.
long time, or like just like, oh my god, who am I without all the craziness? Like, whew, what a relief.
And I think for us women especially, it's so much harder because we get so many messaging about being a perfect mother, a perfect wife, a perfect daughter, mother, and everything else. And we put so much pressure on ourselves that we forgot that we actually have the right to experience joy as much as our children and husband and everyone else who's in our lives.
Absolutely. And um the people around they sense whether you're putting on a happy face because you
Mm.
think you want them to think you're happy, or whether you're actually spontaneously intrinsically joyful. You can smile and grit your teeth and hand out breakfast because you're,
Mm,
or you can actually be happy, be joyful in a relaxed way. Again, that's kind of taking life less seriously. It doesn't mean you love anyone any less. It just means that it's okay to be. And this kind of example is so powerful to those people around us, and impactful. You know, the energy, the tone we set in the room with the people we live with, is huge. And
mm,
it's, we can't always have everything perfectly, but when we take care of ourselves, if you can get up that extra 20 minutes early and just, exercise or go for a walk outside or meditate or just have a conversation with yourself and don't start thinking about the day yet. Just kind of take care of who is your inner self, your spirit, your mind, your soul, your body. Just connecting,
mm,
and like it's going to be okay. You're not thinking about the bills. It's like thinking about how far we've come. Often when we think of the past, we think of, things that didn't go well. But how about the fact that your body has kept you alive this long?
mhm,
What about the fact that most of us have plenty of food and a roof over our heads, and live in relative safety? What about the fact that, yeah, the sun is out, the birds are singing, or even it's cloudy, but the colors of the flowers are more beautiful when it's cloudy? Um, just being and just rediscovering the little things that bring us joy, that can take our stress down a few notches. That helps us relax. It helps us
mhm.
notice the joyful things better throughout the day, helps us notice them with our family members. um, I don't have kids, but I'm an overgrown kid. Oh, my husband says, he gets a laugh out of me, and it just because I'm just that person that, like, I'll just run out into the woods with my arms up, and like it's like I just want to hug nature. I want to hug the world, and I sit on the floor and color, and I do just, like, who cares what people think? That's the big one.
Exactly. That is a big one because so many people are afraid of the judgment, and that is stopping them from happiness, from joy, from success, from putting themselves out there when they're building their businesses, for asking the guy for a date. Just it's crazy how much judgment we fear.
Yeah, we fear the judgment so much that we're doing everything, that we're doing it wrong. Even building your business, even as an entrepreneur, you know, yes, there's things to learn. And yes, there's important information that people need to understand about building a business and finances and money and structure. But we can get lost in the marketing and the social media
Mm,
and all of these steps that just kind of enslave us, which is a very strong word, but it really can.
mm,
um, we get trapped in it and feel like it's the only way to grow or become successful, and forgetting that sometimes just being present and in flow and noticing what the world or the universe or God or whatever you want to call it brings across your path, you may miss incredible opportunities. If you're just sitting in a corner working on your social media all the time, you might have gone for a walk and met someone who could have been a great collaborator or networker or client. You know, kind of realizing that getting back to just being human is okay. And when you're in that kind of flow, um, and when you have a mindset that good is coming and not, oh my God, how am I going to pay this bill and pay that bill? There's a certain release that happens, and it allows the flow. It's like if you think of a hose, or and you squeeze it,
mm.
and the water can't really get through because you're holding on so tight, because you want to try to control it and make it go in a certain way. But if you can just let go a little bit, a lot of times the water then will be able to flow naturally, and you don't have to work so hard to achieve what you want.
You kind of answered my next question, which was like how embracing joy can help listeners to maximize profits and impact maximize the impact in a wider world.
Yes. Well, one easy answer to that is, if we're just going to talk about traditional business for a moment, is your networking and marketing. People are smart. Even they have such good instincts And they know whether when you're trying to sell them something. What about when you're just in your authentic, happy self? What about when you're not like, okay, I got to make this sale. I got to push it. I got to do it right. I got to say the right things. What about just being your spontaneous self? What about letting your joy show up?
Mm.
Not faking it, just actually being joyful. People want to be with joyful people. People want to work with joyful people, collaborate with joyful people. People want to be around people that make them feel good and make them feel happier, make them feel better about themselves. So, and the most simple aspect is by letting your joy begin infiltrating your business, you become more attractive, not because you had to change anything, but because you're just spontaneously actually being who you really are and letting that joy overflow. And that's attractive. It attracts energy. Um, and also, you know, other ways of using is joy in your business is I think just like how you even how you put your business together, how you organize it, how you create structure, how you organize your day. Is it a way that brings you pleasure, or is it all just hard work? Um, I have learned in recent years that it's so much better to stay in a space within reason of feeling good in the moment,
Mm.
doing what I call punishing work, like doing things because you feel like you have to, as opposed to, um, you know, sometimes that means a shift in people's business, and that can be really scary. Is your business really on target for the life you want to lead? Some people might be making a lot of money, but they don't really enjoy what they do. So you get to choose. Could you make a little less money and enjoy your work more? Um, because it's not just the bottom line that brings success, in my opinion. It's also how much you enjoy your life.
Oh, absolutely. Because, like you say, people can read your energy. And if you just hustling and grinding and pushing, they can really sense that. When you
Yeah.
just embrace who you are, just be yourself, people can sense that too. They may not
And
necessarily know what they're sensing, but they can sense that.
yes, absolutely. And you know, there's even a shift in, you know, again, I know that you know you and I, as businesswomen and entrepreneurs, we probably know and work with a lot of other business people and
Mm.
entrepreneurs as well. You know, and when you're marketing your company and your services, there's a difference in just how we frame things. Um, we think of selling actually always feels like there's a little bit of pushing behind it, like trying to achieve goals. When we think of inviting people to participate in what we do, to me, there's a different energy. Now, maybe
Mhm.
it's because I'm a writer and I just love words so much, but there's these nuances of inviting people to work with us, inviting people to be part of what we do, um, coming from a more authentic center instead of like trying to be numbers driven. Uh, and even, yeah, and the willingness to ask. You can ask and invite people. It doesn't have to be a pushing, but asking and inviting. Now, that's not the same for everyone. I mean, my husband's a salesperson. So he lives in a very traditional sales space. You know, he sells software. You know, that's his whole world. And there's a certain way of doing business. But even within that context, you know, you can push for a sale, or you can invite people to feel comfortable in your
Mm.
space and make them feel safe and cared for and make them want to work with you. um, you know, that is also a huge factor in achieving the bottom line.
Mm. I like to frame sales as a service. I'm here to serve, and anyone and everyone who's ready and I can help will come to me. Rather than, "Oh my god, I need to push the sales," because that feels a bit more cringy and doesn't sit right with me. But when I'm talking about service, I'm here to serve, to help others, and anyone who's ready to work with me will come forward. Just feels so much lighter.
Yes.
Me.
And the opportunity to invite, and you and I work in industries of emotional wellness and personal growth, and so, you know, personal development. And so, the kind of, services that we offer, and many of your listeners probably work in similar fields, or some of them do. uh, it really is an invitation. So you do have to ask. You
Mm.
don't have to push, but you do have to ask. So yes, the universe can bring you some great leads, but also, get out there and remember, just as you said, that you are offering a service. When you're approaching an organization or a group or individuals, is like, if I can ever help you with this, or if I could bring a program of this to your group, or um, I would love to be of service and see what I can do. I mean, how that's so inviting. And being out there, and when you're in your joy, it's easier.
Mhm.
So
We just
again,
do it without the push and that, oh my
yes,
God, that has to happen. Just, I'm just gonna show up, my joyful self, the best self I can be, and just leave it the rest to higher
yes,
power. And
yes, yes.
my intention is that everything will work out as it's supposed to.
And I believe in that. I really do. And not everyone is going to be able to embrace that formula, because they need, I guess, rather, a formula. They kind of need to see the numbers and reverse engineer things, and
Mm,
that's fine too. But you can bring these nuances to it, and prioritize your joy. Now, some people are accountants and they love working with numbers. That's great. So in that environment, prioritize your joy and make sure that you are getting, what is that bring you enough joy? Or do you also need to do something creative in your free time?
mm.
Or do you like to go hiking on the weekends? Or, just don't get lost in it. Find those little awarenesses of what brings you joy and what takes your joy away.
Awesome. That's a really good advice. And I guess maybe not for everyone, but just be open. Just open your mind to the possibility of what embracing joy on a daily basis, simple steps, it doesn't have to be a massive thing. How is that can actually benefit your overall well-being? Because I think well-being is the highest state that you can ever be.
Yes. And if you work with people in person, because a lot of people work virtually now, but a lot of people still work in offices or in environments where you're working with other people, you know, living in your joy is a huge and powerful aspect of becoming a better team member, having better interactions at work, offering better customer service, being less resistant to everything. So you bring that energy with you wherever you go. And it brings me joy to bring other people joy. And maybe
Mhm.
that's just me, but I think for many people that's true. So uh, that's also fun. It's just fun,
Mm.
finding ways to get people to smile or laugh, or, something that perks up their day just in the course of your normal work is brings you joy. Bringing joy to others, that's the secret sauce. That's the secret formula, to me, is um, bringing joy to others if you're stuck and feeling like your joy is a little bit low. Some people kind of teach that, oh, you can't have something until you give, I mean, you can't give something away until you have it yourself. And I understand the principle that they mean. But I think joy can be an exception, because you can have a really rotten day and do something nice for someone else, put a smile on their face, and you start feeling better immediately. So I think joy is one of those things where, yeah, if you're just really focused on yourself and really miserable today, go out and see what you can do to bring a smile or a joy to one or two or three people, and see how your own energy starts to shift.
Mhm. And I think it's proven by science that actually doing something for someone else lifts us up.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, we tend to forget when we're isolating and just, focusing on the negative, and um, that we are pack animals, and that we
Mhm.
do we do derive positive energy from good interactions with others. So, and we can create that. You can create that.
Mhm.
And I was having a really bad day recently, and I don't even remember of course, what was going on, but probably it was technology. I was having some tech issue. It was driving me nuts. And I was just finally, so I ended up on the phone with, Apple support, Apple Care. And I'm on hold, and finally get this customer service person, and she was working to take care of me, and we had to wait for a while for a few things to iron out. And so we
Mhm.
started chatting a little bit, and um, she started I don't know what I came up with. I asked where she was located, and I said I was, ended up going to be traveling, doing a retreat soon, and we just started talking. Turns out she's like, "Wow, I really want to travel." I was like, "Well, you should." She's like, "Yeah, I've spent all this time getting my career going, and now I finally have my own house, but I haven't given myself the opportunity to travel." I'm like, "Well, travel doesn't have to be fancy or outrageously expensive." So I was just, I'm a coach too, right? So I was just kind of giving her like the two
Yeah.
minute coaching session on while we're just waiting. And she got so excited and she was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. She's like, tonight I'm going to go home. I'm going to Google it. I'm going to plan a trip. I'm going to go. And she was just like, thank you so much. And, by the time it was over, she'd resolved my tech issue and she was happy and I was happy. I was like, oh my goodness, but it wasn't so much the tech issue being solved. It was, getting to see, feeling the excitement on the phone of someone else who starts getting excited about life and things that would bring them joy,
Mm,
instantly got me out of my head and eased a lot of my own tension and just like, yeah, life is really good. It's about what we notice.
absolutely. It's all about attention and the interpretations that we have, the stories we keep telling ourselves. There's so many golden nuggets that we can keep talking for
I
a long
know.
time. But I've got a last question for you. So this podcast is titled "You Can Be Unstoppable." So, what would be your three top tips to rediscover and embrace the unstoppable part of us?
Mm, wow. I mean, the big giant one is start looking for something every day, one little thing that helps you learn to love and accept yourself.
Mm.
I mean, when we say, oh, learn to love and accept yourself, it sounds so overwhelming. So let's not say, oh, learn to love yourself right now. But how about you take a step every day? How about you appreciate the body that you live in? How about you appreciate the fact that you're good at your job or that you're good with your kids or that you're
Mm.
creative and create beautiful things? How about give yourself some credit? Because we so often in our minds tell ourselves how bad we are or how we fell short or how we made mistakes and not all the good that we've done. So I would say that's a number one step to learning to be unstoppable is learning to love and appreciate yourself in little bits every day, a little bit,
Mhm.
but you know, put a sticky note on your mirror and remind yourself. So in the morning and the evening, what is something that I love and appreciate about myself and make yourself think of it while you're brushing your teeth. Um, just so that you start creating again awareness. Also, and being unstoppable, definitely, I think there's so much energy that comes from living in your joy.
Mm.
Again, the vision, the picture of the young child just running and playing and being happy. There's a lot of energy that comes from your joy. When I have to wake up and just go wash the dishes from last night because I didn't get to it or went to bed too late or something, it's like, that you can make that a joyful, obviously, but that's not where I'm getting my energy. But when I take that extra 10 minutes that I technically shouldn't take and play with my dogs on the bed in the morning, I have so much joy. It raises the level of my energy. So learning to live in your joy gives you the fuel to help make you unstoppable. Um, and then I think I couldn't not say number three, and some people might disagree, but for me, to be unstoppable in the world as a human, and especially as a business person, learning to be compassionate.
Mm.
It's not just about you. And just like sharing your joy can make you joyful, sharing compassion and empathy for others, realizing that we're part of a bigger picture, a bigger planet, a bigger family, um, keeps us humble, keeps us grounded, keeps us connected to people. And that is also, I think, really key to someone who long term wants to be unstoppable.
Those are beautiful three types. And I absolutely fully agree with the first one because self love, accepting, learning to love ourselves is one of the things I talk a lot. It's one of the things I've noticed with my clients that we really struggle with accepting and loving ourselves. I absolutely love that steps. And obviously, joy, no surprises there. So all are absolutely amazing and absolutely love this conversation. So thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely amazing. And I wish everyone a fantastic day, evening, wherever you are in the world while listening to this episode. And I see everyone next week.
And can I give them my little that free joy journal so that you
Yes,
can
absolutely.
yeah,
I can
sure.
attach this to the description so
Sure.
you can
Yes,
find
it'll be
it in there.
attached, but if you're just listening right now or if you can't write it down, it's the free joy journal is at annscotland.com/joy journal. So that's just Ann Scotland, ANNESCOTTLIN, annscotland.com/joy journal.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Evelina. This was just lovely.
Thank you. Bye.